Can you trust the Bible? That is the question today. I'm the reluctant Christian feminist. I think the Bible can be trusted, but what matters to you and your life is not whether I trust the Bible or not. What really matters is, can you trust when you read the Bible? We're just opening up this series on how to read the Bible, but really, if the Bible is not trustworthy, then why even start, right? And I'm not here to convince you or to change your mind, but I'm just going to tell you why I believe the Bible is trustworthy. And then you might think that I'm indoctrinated or being illogical or I'm biased. That's okay. I can usually think the same of anybody who chooses not to trust the Bible. It goes both ways. So there's lots of reasons to trust the Bible. I'm just going to talk about 4. So the first reason for me is the philosophical reason, because in my opinion, without the Bible, without reading this Bible, without recognizing that there is a creator and a God, I feel there is no meaning or purpose in life. And I can see a significant difference between people who live with meaning, people who live with purpose. When you feel like there's a meaning in life, it can make even your suffering, even the difficult things that you go through, it gives you endurance. It gives you a reason to keep pressing on. And the Bible is full of direction and understanding who we are, who we've been created. If you believe the Bible, which I do, we are created in the image of God. And as we read the Bible and we discover more of who God is, we also discover more of that one in whose image we were created. So we develop a greater meaning and a greater purpose. Probably the saddest thing that I have seen in my life is where people feel like life is meaningless and that there's no reason for them being here. And I know that sometimes is a temporary thing. So people don't usually live in that particular thing, but a lot of people have given up. And I like to think that there is meaning and purpose when we read the Bible. And that's one of the reasons I trust the Bible. Now, the second reason that I trust the Bible is the scientific reason, because I'm a bit of a science nerd. I love science fiction and all that type of stuff. And you can look at the world and see amazing scientific evidence of an intelligent designer, sometimes controversial, but I do believe in a God who created everything. Now, when you think about the theories that we come up with that eliminate the need for a God, so you might come up with theories like aliens came to this planet and seeded it with life. And that is a theory that some people believe because there's definitely some evidence that we didn't evolve. So they believe that aliens seeded the planet. Another thing is that we evolved from simple creatures. But Darwin, who believed that we evolved from simple creatures, made 2 predictions, neither of which came true. One is that we would find many, many, many missing links, and the missing link is still missing today, even though we've dug up a lot of different things. There have been a couple of skeletons and remains that have been brought up that people think could potentially be missing links, but there are just a few of them. There's not even a lot. And if there was truly this merging from this to that, there would be lots of missing links, not just one. So Darwin's prediction that we would find many missing links did not come true. Another prediction he made is that we were complex creatures clearly made up of simple pieces, simple cells. And he predicted that when we got a microscope, we would see just how simple a cell was. He believed it would be kind of like Legos. We were, made up of these things that are reproducible, and there's lots of them, and they're just arranged in different ways, and that's how it happens. But we got really great microscopes, and we can see that it's actually far more complex than we could ever have imagined. There's so much complexity in the micro and the nano world, to the degree that even the physics work different at the nano level than they do in the macro level. So that's where we come up with quantum physics, because it's something that is true at the nano level. The other scientific evidence I would say that tells of a God is just the beauty of nature. God didn't create one horse or one dog or one cat or one type of human. He created this amazing array of diversity, and not just in the way things look, but the way people behave. Like even every sunrise and sunset is different. You can look and see the majesty that is happening around us. He has created this incredible world that is full of amazing beauty, and it is everywhere. As they say in the Psalms, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the earth displays his handiwork. It is everywhere. So that is the second reason that I believe in God. And that's the second reason that I believe the Bible can be trusted. The third reason that I believe the Bible can be trusted is because of the historical record. We have a historical record that Jesus existed. Part of it is in the Bible, but there are reports outside the Bible of Jesus's existence. So the fact that this poor man would be raised to a preacher that would die, and then everybody who followed him would tell of his resurrection and keep going seems to me incredible. But the fact that he died and rose again and their lives were transformed, they were willing to be killed for spreading the gospel, to me, that is pretty good evidence that Jesus came and that he existed and that he did something absolutely incredible. In First John, the disciple John, the apostle John says, that which we have seen, which we have held with our hands, he witnessed it in front of his eyes, and that's what he told to his dying day. Of the 12 disciples, one of them fell away, that's Judas, but the other 11, all of them were tortured. 10 of them were killed for their faith, and John was the only one that remained, according to historical records. So there is a historical evidence for the truth of what is told us in the Bible, not to mention the number of manuscripts that we have, a huge number of manuscripts that we have that are different parts of the Bible that show the clarity and the congruity of all that is told. So we have three different reasons there. I have a fourth, but before I go into fourth, I just want to say, though I believe the Bible is trustworthy, I believe the Bible is trustworthy. People are not, and the interpretation that people make of the Bible is not true. I've even done things like I've read things from the Bible and I didn't get it right the first time, because we need sometimes that experience and the context and more things about what's going on, like who wrote it, why did they write it, can it be trusted as something that is described as something we ought to do, or is it something that's described as something that just happened, a descriptive passage of what happened, or a prescriptive, this is the way you should act. So recognizing those particular passages and how they were told has really given a lot of clarity. But it really does mean that I have to go to the Bible myself and not trust what other people say the Bible says, right? If you read something on the internet and somebody says, this study proves, X, Y, and Z, if X, Y, and Z is important to you, then hopefully you're looking at that study too, and not just taking somebody's word for it. And it is no different with the Bible. The Bible is a very important work. People are so divided about whether this is trustworthy or whether it is just false prophecy. There's so many people who are divided about it. And that's why it's really, really important to look at it for yourself. Maybe you can change my mind about the historical record, and maybe you can change my mind about the way I view science, or maybe you can change the mind about any other reason, like the philosophical one. Maybe you can come up with a philosophical argument that goes, oh, okay, well, I could live my life without meaning and reason and purpose, or I could come up with my own meaning and my own reason, which I reject that. I've thought that one through, and I do not believe that. I believe that we can't just create our own purpose. But the fourth reason that I believe the Bible is trustworthy, and listen to this one, it is because I have seen its effect in my life. Now, I have been following the Bible for a really long time. For more than 45 years, I have been following Jesus, and I've read the Bible for most of that time. And I can tell you it has made a difference in my life. There's a passage in 1 Kings 19 where the great prophet Elijah is in a despair and he is alone. He separated himself from everybody else. He felt like he was a failure, and he went into the desert by himself, and he would just like, God, just take my life right now because I am just worthless. I'm a failure. I'm in a terrible place. And I remember reading this particular passage one time, and I could relate so much with this prophet. I cannot wait. I really hope that one day I'm able to sit with him face to face. I don't know what life after this particular life looks like, life in heaven or life in the new earth. I have no idea, but I'm really hoping that I can sit down with Elijah and say, I read that story about you and I knew you. It made sense to me. It meant something to me. Because when I was a child and I read about Elijah, all I really read about was like, oh, he called fire down on the mountain and he defeated all the prophets and he did all these great things. But this was also true of him. He fell into a despair and he felt like his life was at an end. Now, I know that whenever I got into those positions, I would beat myself up. You ever do that? You're like, okay, I'm despair. And not only am I in despair, I'm absolutely hating myself because of the way I feel. I should feel better than this. I should have more faith. And this is not how God treated Elijah when Elijah reached this point of despair. God saw Elijah in that moment. And he's like, Elijah, eat and rest. And I was like, what? What just happened here? Elijah got to a point where his faith failed him, and God tells him to eat something and to rest. He did that. It's in the Bible. And I thought, if God can show compassion to the prophet when he feels like a failure, maybe he can show compassion to me. Maybe I can show compassion to myself. So God gave him exactly what he needed. He gave him rest, he gave him food, and brought him on a journey, just him and God. And they had this meeting at a very important place. And right after that, God gave him new things to do, gave him new meaning, gave him new purpose. And God gave him a companion who would stay with him because Elijah felt alone. He sent his servants away and his servant went away. What's funny, at the end of Elijah's life, and Elijah knows that God's going to take him, but Elisha knew that God was going to take Elijah. And several times Elijah's like, you need to go away. And Elisha's like, no, I'm staying with you. I'm going to be with you to the end. So in this first story, Elijah had a servant that he sent away and the servant went away. And at the end, Elijah kept sending Elisha away and Elisha wouldn't leave. So you think about how God met his needs by giving him people and a purpose and food and all that type of stuff. And he could do the same for you and me when we're in a difficult place. So that is the fourth reason why I find the Bible trustworthy. I just gave you one example of something that I read from the Bible at a time that meant a lot to me. And that lesson has never left me. And it doesn't matter how many times I read a specific passage, sometimes I can almost always get something new or fresh out of it. And that's one of the amazing parts of the Bible. I really love the book of Jane Eyre, and I've read that a couple of times. And every time I know exactly where I'm going to cry. I know exactly the parts that touch me. It's a great and beautiful story, but I don't really get a new information. I don't get new transformational content. It's the same beautiful, beloved story every time. But the Bible is not like that. I can read the same passage multiple times and get new revelation for where I am at that moment. The Bible speaks to me. The cool thing about reading the Bible is I get to choose what I need to read and where I need to be in the Bible to get what I need right now. And that's very different than if you are not reading the Bible, maybe going to church and then you just get whatever are on other people's agendas. So I want to encourage you to continue watching the series if you are interested in how to read the Bible, because there is so much more. Be sure to subscribe to get this great content. I have a link below, and the link below is going to be all the things that I have about resources for how to read the Bible. And as we start the series, it will have a little bit of content, but as we go, it's going to have a lot more content for you. So be sure to go check out the link in the description, and I will see you back again later. I love you. God bless.